At 9 a.m. Eastern time today, we are expecting to see Sam Bankman-Fried back in a court in the Bahamian capital where he's due to waive his extradition rights, essentially paving the way for federal authorities to secure his return to the U.S. That's according to a source close to the matter who spoke to me this weekend. Now, even though the U.S. has an extradition treaty with the Bahamas, in practice, the process can take months, if not years, to complete because the person who's been accused of a crime has numerous chances to appeal. So Bankman-Fried's change of heart here is a really big deal because it could significantly expedite next steps, including moving up the timeline for his federal trial.
It looks like Sam Bankman-Fried is heading home. He's decided he's ready to check out of his tropical suite to face justice American style. But why did he decide to agree to extradition? And why now? Let's find out.
Okay, so Mackenzie, why has he done this? It seems like a total about-face on not fighting extradition.
Yeah, so Contessa, one former federal prosecutor tells me it could be that his lawyers told him that extradition is highly likely and there wasn't much of a point in fighting it. Bankman-Fried tried a couple times last week to get out on bail. That was not working, so he would have had to wait this out from a correctional facility in the Bahamas. The other big question here, did he cut a deal with the feds? And I'm hearing that's probably unlikely at this stage unless it was for something relatively minor like early discovery or conditions of release like bond. The more likely scenario could be that he's actually looking to demand a speedy trial and test an indictment that looks like it was rushed since it would be tough for the Department of Justice to be ready for trial that quickly.
Okay, so are the Bahamians going to let him go to the United States without putting up their own fight?
Yeah, so the Bahamians have been angling for control over the bankruptcy proceedings and some $256 million worth of real estate owned by FTX in the Bahamas. And on the face of it, having SBF in the Bahamas does at least present the illusion of leverage. But from what I hear, it's unlikely that the government there will actually block Bankman-Fried's extradition. A lawyer familiar with these types of cases says the DOJ likely wouldn't have charged him in the first place unless they already had conversations with the Bahamian government in advance and felt comfortable that they would cooperate. So it's expected the Bahamas will let the U.S. take the lead and not overplay their hand here. But a source close to the matter tells me that everything is moving really quickly for Bankman-Fried and things are still subject to change. So we'll see how this plays out in the next few hours, Contessa.
Mackenzie, I'm wondering whether there is a diplomatic problem looming here in that it's been reported that the Bahamian officials have been able to access some of the money for creditors ahead of U.S. officials. And so there's this whole, if you've got the current CEO looking for the assets to pay creditors and to work within bankruptcy proceedings, and the Bahamians have already taken control of some of it, is there a diplomatic problem looming?
I think there is definitely a question as to some of the transfers of crypto tokens that happened right at the beginning of the bankruptcy process. You know, initially it was the Bahamians who had advance access to withdraw their funds from the platform due to local laws there. There were also questions of hundreds of millions of dollars worth of crypto that was seized at an early date. So I think that those are all of the things that the U.S. bankruptcy court is going to be paying attention to as they sort through their finances and where money went in those last few weeks, especially, even thinking to the $5 billion worth of withdrawals that happened before the platform closed. There's a question as to whether there could be clawbacks there as they look to restore, the bankruptcy estate and put as much together as they can.
While he won't be saying goodbye to his soup cup and rat pillow just yet, SBF does want to see his indictment before packing his bags.
Kate Rooney joins us now with more. Kate, this was apparently kind of a last-second change of heart here.
Yeah, someone I was just talking to say it appears that he got cold feet, or someone on the legal team did. But Kelly, there was a sense of confusion about today's hearing. The court in the Bahamas has been adjourned for the day, and Sam Bankman-Fried is headed back to jail. A source familiar with the matter had told me earlier that the former FTX CEO went into today's hearing planning to surrender himself to U.S. extradition, meaning he was coming back to the U.S., but Bankman-Fried's defense attorney today saying in court that Bankman-Fried wants to see the indictment against him before agreeing to be extradited. NBC News telling us that both sides expressed a lot of confusion in the courtroom. The prosecutor is saying we understood Sam Bankman-Fried was there to waive extradition in the first place. His Bahamian attorneys, meanwhile, requesting that he be allowed to speak with his American attorneys while in custody. He arrived at the courthouse earlier today. He was there in a suit, according to NBC, but still looked disheveled as they described it. He was seen with his head in his hands. His knees were shaking, so we got some details on his overall demeanor there. Last week, his lawyers said that they planned to fight extradition to the U.S. He was denied bail and has been in the Fox Hill Correctional Facility in Nassau since his first court appearance last Tuesday. Bankman-Fried was indicted in a New York federal court last week on 8 criminal charges and faces civil suits from the SEC and CFTC. Attorneys for Bankman-Fried declined to comment.
Does it almost sound as though the gravity of what's happened is sinking in? I don't know if he's been in personal denial about the fact that this appears to be an $8 billion theft, but if that's how it is prosecuted, he's facing substantial amount of prison time. What are the prospects then for getting him to the U.S. and getting that process started?
So it seemed a few hours ago as if that was moving forward, and that delay tactic, as some had described it, was sort of going away. They were saying it appears that he's going to come back to the U.S. and the trial can get underway. He'll be arraigned. He'll have to plead guilty or not guilty, and the process can just move forward. This appears to be another delay tactic based on what some legal experts were telling me, and someone described it as him getting cold feet or someone on his legal team. There may be a bit of a disagreement, whether it's him and his parents with the legal team, and so this was really unexpected. There was a sense of confusion, but another legal expert told me that it's not a great look. If he's coming back to the U.S. at any point and has any opportunity, there's sort of a window for him to get either bail in the U.S. and get some of these deals done and negotiate, and he may be losing out on that. So he may be losing that window that's, I'm told, very, very narrow.